Good morning, everyone. Department of EC welcomes you to the lecture series on computer communication networks. Subject code 17 EC 64, 15 EC 64, 6 semester AB and parallel batch. The module number 5, the lecture number 48. This is presented by A.V. Kolki, Assistant Professor, Department of ECE, KLS VDIT, Hariyar. The contents covered in previous lecture are Introduction to the TCP/IP Transport Layer Protocols, Introduction to User Datagram Protocol, User Datagram Packet Format, UDP Services and Applications. Today, these are the topics we are discussing in this section, that are TCP services, TCP features and a segment. Now we'll discuss about TCP. It is a transmission control protocol, and this will be a connection oriented and reliable protocol. We already discussed about UDP. The UDP is a connectionless and unreliable protocol. In UDP, we are not finding any the reliable service because it does its best effort. Whatever I send it, I'm not guaranteeing that whether that will be reaches to the receiver. But whereas in this TCP, as it is a connection oriented is there and as well as reliable, so here we can guarantee that whatever sender is sending, that is going to reach the receiver, because in TCP we are creating a connection before sending our packets. Once we establish the connection between the sender and receiver, soon after that we go for the data transfer. Once my data transfer is get completes, then I'm going to tear down that connection here. So like this, in TCP we find that there are three phases, that are connection establishment, data transfer and connection tear down. The TCP uses go back in and selective repeat protocols to provide reliability. To achieve this goal, the TCP uses a checksum for error detection. The packet those are lost or corrupted, for that we are retransmitting, and as well as we are using accumulative and selective acknowledgements and as well as timers to provide the reliable service at TCP. So now let us discuss about the TCP/IP protocol suite. In TCP/IP protocol suite, we are having 5 layers: the physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer and application layer. Now we are speaking at the transport layer. So in transport layer, we are having the main three, the protocols, the transport protocols, the UDP, TCP and SCTP. The UDP we already discussed in the previous lecture. So today we'll discuss much more on the TCP. So unlike UDP, the TCP also refers the port numbers in order to provide the process to process communication. It refers the port numbers, and by referring the port numbers, it provides the service. So these are the well-known ports are used by a TCP. The port number 7 is used for echo. It echoes a received datagram back to the sender, just like an acknowledgement. The port number 9, discard. It discards any datagram that is received. The port number 11, for users, for active users, we are using this port number. And port number 13, that is used for a daytime. So whenever you use this port number, it returns the date and time. So like that, even we are using the 20 and 21 for file transfer protocol. and 25 for simple mail transfer protocol, 53 for domain name server, 67 bootstrap protocol, 79 finger, 80 HTTP, that is hypertext transfer protocol. So these are the various the port numbers what we are using for TCP. Before discussing this, let us discuss on UDP. In UDP, it receives the data from the application layer. Then that data, it appends its headers. Then together that we call that is a datagram, and that datagram we are forwarding it to the network layer. So this how a delivery takes place. The datagram delivery takes place at UDP. But whereas in TCP, it allows the sending process to deliver data as a stream of bytes and allows the receiving process to obtain data as a stream of bytes. The TCP creates an environment in which the two processes seem to be connected by an imaginary tube that carries their bytes across the internet. So as it is mentioned in this slide, the sending process produces the stream of data and the receiving process consumes it. The sending and receiving buffers at TCP. The intention of including the buffers in TCP protocol is that in order to provide a flow control. So this flow control was not there in UDP protocol. The sender may send with whatever the rate he is having, he can process it and he can send it irrespective of the capacity of the receiver. So because of this mismatch, the rate of transmission and the rate of processing speed of the receiver, because of this mismatch, there is chance of the packet loss. So that is what we noticed in UDP protocol. So to overcome that kind of problem, what we noticed in the UDP, in TCP, we are introducing the sending and receiving buffers as it is mentioned in this diagram. The main intention of introducing the buffers is that this is the sender buffer and this is the receiver buffer. The sender may process the data with some higher speed. Let us imagine that the sender may be processing the data with higher rate here. But whereas the receiver is processing with lower rate. If the sender capacity, whatever his higher rate is there, with that rate if he process it and if he forwards through this stream bytes imaginary channel here, if we transmit in that, then the receiver will not be able to process all the packets whatever sender is sending. The reason is that the receiver, the processing speed is low, already I mentioned it. So because of that, so when it is sending 10 packets and it is processing 2 packets, the remaining packets may be get dropped out because of its lower speed. So to overcome this problem, so we are introducing this buffer concept at the sender side and as well as at the receiver side. You can notice that the buffers in either side, they are flowing in the same direction, unidirectional the movement is there. So this how it is moving, and even this buffer is also moving in this direction. In the unidirectional, both the buffers are rotating. And let us discuss about the sender buffer. The sender buffer is divided into three parts. This is one part, this is one part, this is another part, and this is a one more part here. The three parts we are noticing at the sender buffer. What is the meaning of this? The pink part here, it indicating that these are the packets or the data are already sent to the receiver, but for that packets I have not received any acknowledgement from the receiver. So that's why I kept that in the buffer. So once I receive a acknowledgement from the receiver for these packets, then I discard these packets and these packets will be blanked. White color will be made it. So that is representing it's a empty slots. Whereas this shaded part, this part, this is representing these are the number of the packets that is received from the application layer, and those are put in these slots, and those are not yet sent out. So one after the next we are processing and we are sending out from the sender node to the receiver node. So this is what about this gray part here. Coming to the white, this part here. So these are the number of slots, buffer empty slots. If any more data is arriving from the application process to the transport layer, that is TCP protocol, those can be put in these slots. So this way the sender buffer is broadly divided into three parts: sent, not yet sent, and arrival layer. If any byte of data is arriving from the application process, that we are putting in the empty slots. Coming to the receiver buffer, at the receiver we are having only two parts. The buffer will be divided into only two parts. One is this part, another one is this part here. The pink part, it is representing whatever the packets are arrived from the sender node to the receiver. Those are put in these slots here. The pink color, those are indicating that packets are arrived, and those are not at red. And the white part, the slots, those are representing, those all are empty slots. If any more packets arrives from the sender side, and those can be put in these slots. And the receiver buffer, the transmission control protocol, it start reading one after the another here. It will be get processed. This will be picked up, and that will be get processed. If it is the free of errors and it is in order, then that will be get processed and that will be delivered to the upper layer, that is to the application process. So this how the sending and receiving buffers, which helps in the TCP protocol to manage the flow. There should not be loss of any packets. Whenever the sender may be having some higher rate of processing or receiver may be having lower rate or vice versa, we can manage overall system so that none of the packets will be lost. So for that reason, the sending and receiving buffers are implemented. The buffering handles the disparity between the speed of the producing and consuming process. We need to discuss one more step before we can send a data. The network layer as a service provider for TCP needs to send a data in packets, not as a stream of bytes. At the transport layer, the TCP groups a number of bytes together into a packet called a segment. The TCP adds a header to each segment and delivers the segment to the network layer for transmission. The segments are encapsulated in an IP datagram or at the network layer and transmitted. The entire operation is transparent to the receiving process. Later, that segments may be received out of order or lost or corrupted and resent. All of these are handled by the TCP receiver with the receiving application process unaware of TCP's activities. Furthermore, we can note down in that is that the segments whatever we are creating or generating, there may be of any size. So in this I consider So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5 bytes, for that I appended the header. That's why I prepared this segment n. Whereas my first segment, which is having only 3 bytes, the length of the segments may be anything here. There is no restriction on that. So this is what about the TCP segments, and those segments we are sending to the network layer for the process. Similarly at the receiver side. TCP features. TCP has several features that are briefly summarized in this section, that are number system, byte number, sequence number. The numbering system. The TCP software keeps a track of the segments being transmitted or received. There is no field for a segment number value in the segment header. Instead, there are two fields called as the sequence number and acknowledgement number. These two fields refer to a byte number and not a segment number. So that's how the numbering system works at TCP. The byte number. When TCP receives bytes of data from a process, TCP stores them in the sending buffer and numbers them. The numbering does not necessarily starts from 0. Instead, TCP chooses an arbitrary number between 0 and 2 to the power of 32. 2 to the power of 32 minus 1 for the number of the first byte. For example, if the number happens to be the 1057 and the total data to be sent is 6000 bytes, the bytes are numbered from 1057 to the 7056. There is no necessity that always the byte number should always start with 0. So whatever the arbitrary number, so it may be ranging from 0 to 2 to the power of 32 minus 1. So from that we can number as it is mentioned with this example. And the next one is sequence number. The bytes have been numbered. Now TCP assigns a sequence number to each segment that is being sent. The sequence number is defined as follows. The sequence number of the first segment is the ISN, that is initial sequence number, which is a random number. The sequence number of any other segment is the sequence number of the previous segment plus the number of bytes carried by the previous segment. We can remember this note about the numbering. The bytes of data being transferred in each connection are numbered by TCP. The numbering starts with an arbitrarily generated number, that is 2 to the power of 32 minus 1. Let us consider this example, how the sequence numbers and segment numbers are assigned. Suppose a TCP connection is transferring a file of 5000 bytes. The first byte is numbered 10001. What are the sequence numbers for each segment if a data are sent in 5 segments, each carrying 1000 bytes? The solution goes like this. The 5 segments we are having in this, the segment 1, segment 2, segment 3, segment 4, segment 5. And the first sequence number is the first byte number, whatever we are considering here. So that is mentioned here. The first sequence number is always, it is numbered with the first byte number. And this will be ranges from the 10,001 to 11,000, because we need to send in every one segment 1000 bytes. So that's why the ranges, the sequence number ranges from the byte number ranges from the 10,001 to 11,000. So that's how the 1000 bytes we are sent over here. In the second segment, the sequence number will be the first byte number in that. That is, already we have sent in the previous segment up to 11,000. The next byte will be, it starts with 11,001. So that is my segment 2, and that is what the sequence number also. And that segment which holds the 11,001 to the 12,000 what it is mentioned. Similarly, for the segment number 3, the segment number 3 which is ranges from 12,001 to the 13,000, whatever the first byte we are mentioning here, the number, so that is what we call it as a sequence number. So that's how up to the segment number 5 the sequence number will be 14,001. That is the byte, the starting byte in the segment number 5 here. So that is what we are assigning as a sequence number. Then the segment 5 carrying the 14,001 to 15,000. So these are the segment 5 carries these number of bytes. So this how the segments and sequence numbers are numbered. We can also note that the value of the acknowledgement field in a segment defines the number of the next byte a party expects to receive. The acknowledgement number is cumulative. So this concept, it is same as that of in the go back N protocol. So in the go back N protocol, if I'm saying that ACK3 means that the 0, 1, 2, those the packets or a data have been received. So I'm expecting from the sender now the third packet. So how it is representing? So in the same fashion here also a cumulative acknowledgement numbers will be referred, and then the whatever the number it is defining here, that means the receiving party is expecting this next byte here. So that's how the acknowledgement number it serves in the TCP protocol. Let us discuss the TCP packets themselves. A packet in TCP is called segment, and its format, how it looks. So let us see about that. The TCP segment header format, it looks like this, which has a 20 to 60 bytes size of header, and the remaining part is a data. That is called as a segment. The 20 bytes of header when we are not opting any options, then the size of TCP header will be of 20 bytes. When I'm including the options, then the size of the TCP header may be 60 bytes. So that's how, based upon whether you are including the options, whether you are not including the options, accordingly we get 20 to 60 bytes of the TCP header. So this is what the overburden what we are noticing, whereas in the previous UDP we are hardly having a 8 bytes of header, but here we are having the header size of 20 bytes to 60 bytes. The header format in TCP segment, it goes like this, which has a source port address of 16 bits, destination port address of 16 bits, sequence number 32 bits, acknowledgement number 32 bits, header length will be represented with 4 bits, the reserve bits of 6 bits. Then there are the flags will be used. So we are discussing that. Then window size of 16 bits, the checksum of 16 bits, urgent pointer of 16 bits. The options, if we are including the options, then my header size is of 40 bytes. Let us discuss about the source port address. This is a 60-bit field that defines the port number of the application program in the host that is sending the segment. The destination port address, this is also a 16-bit field that defines the port number of the application program in the host that is receiving the segment. The third field is the sequence number. This is a 32-bit field defines the number assigned to the first byte of data contained in this segment. The TCP is a stream protocol, transport protocol. To ensure the connectivity, each byte to be transmitted is numbered. The sequence number tells the destination which byte in this sequence is the first byte in the segment. During the connection establishment, each party uses a random number generator to create an initial sequence number, which is usually different in each direction. When a sender is sending that the connection packet, that time that sequence number will be different. When a receiver is sending a reply for that sequence number will be different, and that is what it is elaborated. So the next field is acknowledgement number. This field is of 32-bit, defines the byte number that the receiver of the segment is expecting to receive from the other party. If the receiver of the segment has successfully received a byte number X, for example X, from the other party, it returns X plus 1 as the acknowledgement number. The next field is header length. This is a 4-bit field, indicates the number of 4 bytes words in the TCP header. The length of the header can be between 20 and 60 bytes based upon the options. Therefore, the value of this field is always between 5 and 15. So here we are representing that value as 5. The 5 will be mentioned as 0, 1, 0, 1. This is for when the total size of the header is 20 bytes is there, I'm using this in this header value here. So if it is 60 bytes is there, then the header length value will be 1, 1, 1, 1. So this is what the value we are mentioning in this header length of 4 bits. The next one is the control. The control bit. So we are having another slide. So let us move to that. This field defines the 6 bits of control bits or flags, that are the URG, ACK, PSH, RST, SYN, FIN. The URG means it's an urgent pointer, and ACK means it's an acknowledgement. PSH means request to push. RST means reset the connection. SYN means synchronize sequence numbers. FIN means terminate the connection. So this way the 6 different bits we are having to control the different activity, that are the one or more of these bits can be set at a time. These bits enable flow control, connection establishment and termination, connection abortion, and the mode of data transfer in TCP. Let us discuss about the field, that is the window size. This field defines the window size of the sending TCP in bytes. The length of this field is 16 bits, which means that the maximum size of the window is 65,535 bytes. This value is normally referred to as the receiving window and is determined by the receiver. The sender must simply obey the dictation of the receiver to whether to send or not to send a data packet. The next one is the checksum. The next field is checksum. This is a 16-bit field, contains the checksum. However, the use of the checksum in UDP datagram is and optional, where the use of the checksum for TCP is mandatory. The last, the field is urgent pointer. Even this field is also of 16-bit, which is valid only if the urgent flag is set in the control field. Then it is used when the segment contains urgent data. It defines the value that must be added to the sequence number to obtain the number of the last urgent byte in the data section of the segment. And options. There can be up to 40 bytes of optional information in the TCP header. The final note, we can note it down about the checksum. The use of checksum in TCP is mandatory, whereas in UDP it was an optional. But here, since the TCP is a connection oriented and as well as it provides a reliable service, so therefore the checksum is a mandatory. The summary and additional links for this video. The TCP is a reliable and connection-oriented transport layer protocol that creates a process-to-process communication. It provides the flow control, error control, congestion controls, and as well as we discussed about the TCP services, features, and segment. For further reference, you can refer the Data Communication and Networking Frozen 5th edition copy for additional reference. So thank you very much.